What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me, where today we're going to create this mountain scene. Now as always, there's links to everything in the description down below. There's multiple ways to do a lot of things here in Infinite Painter. I've got the actual palette if you want to just install that and import it, but if you want the actual colours you can use them as well. There's a file that you can see on screen now which you can download and add the colours into Infinite Painter manually. Now in this particular tutorial, there's also this tree brush that's down at the bottom here as well. Now you're going to need to install that into Infinite Painter. Now I've left a link to where the actual file is, and also I've left a link to a video that I've made on how you can import that in there. I'll also leave a link to the original creators YouTube channel there as well if you want to go and support them, but there may also be extra instructions over there if you need them. So if you like this design, be sure to like the video down below. And also if you want to share your designs with me, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, where I've also created a Facebook group. So if you want to come and join the community over there where you can mingle with other Infinite Painter users, all the links to my socials will be in the description down below. And with all that said, let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, the first thing we're going to want to do is create the framing for our design to keep everything nice and tidy within those circles. So we're going to go up to our tools here. We're going to go to perspective and just scroll across until we get the option of grid. Now the grid itself should stay exactly as it is. The only thing you want to make sure is this magnetic icon here is turned on. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and in the palette, we're going to use the first color that's been provided. We're then going to go ahead and make sure our brush is set to calligraphy and the monoline brush. And the size needs to be between 25 and 30 pretty much. We're then going to go ahead and go to our tools. We're going to go to the circle option here. And if we go ahead and tap in the center of the screen and drag outwards, it's now using that snapping of the grid to make sure our circle is nice and centered. So we're going to go to here where we've got a column on either side and a row top and bottom. Next, we're going to go ahead and create another new layer, and we'll just turn our circle tool off for a moment and then go back to it. So we've created a new layer here. We're going to go back to our create options and the option of circle, and again tap in the center and drag outwards, except this time just leaving a bit of a gap there on the side. Now we don't want that much of a gap, so we're going to grab this icon here and drag outwards until we leave a gap between these two edges. Something around about sort of this sort of style will look pretty good, if not a tiny bit more in, so about halfway in that column. Then what we're going to do is tap on our circle because we're done with it, and we're going to tap on our grid icon because we're also done with that too. So this inner circle here is going to act as sort of a frame. So we're going to go to our tools and go to the fill option. Still using the same color, we're going to tap on this outer side here. So I'm going to tap here and then drag from left to right a few times in that space just to increase the threshold to get rid of any white marks around the outside. And then hit the tick when you're done. So now you've got this ring at the top and our frame. Let's now go ahead and add in some gradients onto them to give them some more color. So we're going to go to the top of our layers and create a new layer. We're going to go to our create options and the gradient tool. And we're going to go ahead and drag down from the top of the circle pretty much down to the bottom, roughly here, in a nice straight line. And then with these points, we're going to go ahead and add in multiple colors. So if we tap on the bottom color and using the palette provided, we're going to grab this color here, so the yellowy tone. Then we'll create a new point just here. Tapping on it will give you the option of adding a new color here. And if we tap on that, we'll grab the next color along, which is then the fifth color on that top row. We'll then go ahead and add in another point, tap on that, change it to the next color, which is the fourth color. And then we'll go ahead and add in one more point at the top here and tap on it. And let's change it to the third color, just to add in a bit more color in our sky. Now that's looking nice as it is for a second. So let's go ahead and hit the tick icon here just to apply that gradient. But these colors here are a little bit too boxed in. So I'm just going to go up to my options here. So create tools. We're going to go ahead to edit. We're going to go to filters, and we're going to scroll down until we get to the option of structure and blur. If we tap on that, we can then blend our colors in a little bit more. So you'll see that the difference, that's what it started off as. And if you swipe to the right, you can blend them in. So I'm going up to 100% and hitting the tick. Now what we need to go ahead and do is tap on this layer and duplicate it. Drag one of them all the way down to the bottom and underneath our frame. And then the top one up here, we're going to tap on it and clip it to the ring that we made. So tap on it and clip. And then there you go. Your design now has a gradient that follows round on the ring all the way, but also now you have a sky background as well for our design. And that's what we want to achieve. So this layer here, which is what I'm calling our frame, is going to keep everything nice and tidy and sort of look like it's just in the circle. We could use a clipping mask, but we've got quite a few layers to add, so we're going to avoid that. So we're going to go down here in front of our gradient here and create a new layer. And we're now going to add in the trees. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, there's a link in the description down below to a tree brush and also a really helpful video by myself where it will show you how to install brushes. So you'll need to check that out first. But once you have the brush, we're going to continue with the same color and go to our brush library. And at the top here, your imported new ones will be at the top. And when you open that up, we've got these awesome trees provided by this creator. And we're going to use the Tree 2 brush here. Now the brush size is going to be set to about 288. And what we want to do is just add some trees that are going to pretty much go across this sort of level here. So I'm going to go across, creating a nice forest of trees and maybe a slight little curve here and there. You could also vary your sizes if you want to, but I'm quite happy with how that looks. There's a couple in there that are a little bit lighter and I can maybe go back in, undo that and just add in a few more lighter trees just in the background. So the lighter you press, the lighter the tree will look. And you can nicely sort of build up a forest look. So I've got a little bit of a curve there to my tree line. That's the trees. We're done with them completely. We can go ahead and create a new layer. We'll drag it underneath our trees and we're going to draw in our mountain. So we're going to need to change the color first of all. We're going to go ahead and grab the second color on that top row. It's just ever so slightly off from the background purple. We're going to go to our brush. I'm going to go back to calligraphy and the monoline brush. It's always my favorite to add in sort of objects like this. We'll use a different brush later on to fill in. I'll swipe my layers out of the way for a second. And we're going to go ahead and create a mountain. So it could be easier to put a dot at the top here. The brush size, by the way, is currently set to 26. You can maybe make it a bit smaller if you want to get more sort of details in your mountain. So maybe about 10. And then from that point, you can create your mountain off to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a little bit of a mountain sort of shape here, down into this area. I'm going to go all the way down to my frame here just for a second. And then I'm going to go ahead and from that point at the top, just create the opposite side. And then try and make it a little bit sort of symmetrical in terms of its shaping. Again, go to the edge of the frame here. Now what we'll need to do is we actually just need to link these up. Now because you've gone round to your frame, you should be able to either, you can start from here, where you can last see your line and go all the way around and draw to there. That's probably the easiest way. So that then you can go to your create options and fill and just make sure you tap in the center and drag from left to right a few times just to increase the threshold until you get a mountain like this and hit the tick when you're done. We'll continue and create the rest of the mountains as well. So we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. We'll drag it underneath our front mountain, which is this one here. And we'll do the same on the left hand side. So we'll go ahead and create a new mountain. It's going to be slightly smaller. It's a little bit further back. So we're just going to maybe come in from just the sort of tip of the tree line and create a nice sort of peak at the top, maybe a little sub peak off to the side, and then go round and try to do it in one motion by going all the way around to your start point. So that you can then go up to your tools again, go to fill and tap in the middle of the mountain and swipe from left to right again just a few times just to increase the threshold. Hit the tick when you're done. And then what we'll do is on the same layer, we'll draw in another mountain on the right hand side. So you've kind of got an idea now for scale. You can maybe make this one sort of a similar height or even make this one slightly smaller. Now you want to avoid running into corners. That's just a rule for art in general. You don't want to like run into that corner there where you've got a point. So my sort of mountain here on the right needs to almost come through from this sort of point or even higher here just to avoid running into corners. So what I'll do is I'll try and make mine come from up here. Nice sort of little mountain. I'm going to change the shape of this one a little bit. Make it a little bit flatter in comparison. And then go all the way around to your start point. So that again you can go up to your create options and fill and tap in the middle of the mountain. Swipe from left to right a couple of times just to fill it in. Now we can hit the tick. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab my mountain here in the middle. I'm going to go back to my create options and I'm going to use the option of edit and basic transformation and just make this a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to scale this up in size just a tiny bit, just so it is our main focal point and just a tiny bit higher. And I'm going to go ahead and just try and make sure that's as central as possible and hit the tick when I'm done. Now for a moment, we'll turn off the back two mountains so we can see our mountain at the front here. We're going to go ahead and create a new layer and tap on this layer and clip it to the mountain, meaning what we now draw on this empty layer can only show if it is visible inside the shape that it's clipped to. So basically, if I draw out here, it's not going to show. Anything I draw within the mountain will show. So if I now go to my colors, I've got white here on the far right of the palette. Now we're going to actually go ahead and change our brush, and we're going to go down to the option of fills, and we're going to use this one here, debris fill. Now what this will do is this will give us a nice little bit of random texture in the brush, just a tiny bit. Now this brush works in a sort of series where what you draw is going to try and fill in the inside area of what you draw, like so. Now ignore that one, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead and from the top up here, everything facing off to the right, we're going to go ahead and try and give a little bit of light. So something a little bit like this. And then from this peak here, I'm just going to go ahead and create sort of a ridge line. Maybe it runs into the mountain ever so slightly, and then maybe runs all the way down to the bottom. And you see it's filled in the inside for us. There is a solid fill as well, which won't give you these little dots, but I think they look really good in this particular style. I'm then going to go ahead and create another bit here, which is just going to again be like facing off to the right into our light source, and maybe another bit down here too in this little gap. But leaving some gaps will look great. And potentially just one tiny little ridge line here that's just going to run up and down sort of the middle area of the mountain. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is tap on the layer. We're going to lower its opacity down, and we can drop it to anything that you feel happy with. I think 50 looks pretty good. You could even make it a little bit brighter if you want to, but I think 50 looks bang on. And then what we'll do is we'll create another new layer. We're going to go ahead and go to our colors. We're going to grab the darkest tone on the far left of the palette. We're going to tap on this layer and just lower the opacity down to something maybe around about sort of 70%. And now what we're going to do is add in the opposite side with shadows. So kind of following the same sort of rules to an extent. So I'm going to go ahead now and create the first shadow off the top of this peak. I'm just going to go ahead and draw that in. Now it's very sort of faint, the shadow, so just bear that in mind a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw in another one that's just running down into this area here. And then I'm going to go round that little highlight. So a little bit of a shadow there in there. If you want to, I can actually just increase that up to 100% for you for the rest of this sort of step before lowering it back down to 70, just so that you can see it for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and create another ridge line that's very sort of big and chunky here in the center. And we'll add in one big shadow here on the back end of the mountain that maybe runs into that area there. And you can always just connect two together if you want to. You can even go over to where your highlights are and just maybe on the back end of them occasionally just add in the odd little sort of shadow here. Maybe even a shadow in here too. Something like that is going to look really good. And when we add in the other mountains, this will really come to life. So I'm just going to go ahead and just widen this one up a tiny bit more. Maybe even run that highlight or shadow, should I say, all the way down into that shadow. So it's connected on that side. And then maybe one more here up from the bottom, just to add in a little bit more detail. So there we go. There's our first mountain. So that's what you want to try and aim for. And again, remember to tap on the layer and drop the shadows down to about 70 to 75%. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is just do exactly the same, but with the other two mountains. So we'll bring them back in. Now you should be able to just about see your edges of your mountains. So we're going to tap on that layer for the two mountains and create a new layer. Tap on that layer and clip it to the mountain shapes. Let's switch our color back to the option of white. So what we'll do is we'll tap on the layer. We know that we want to drop our highlights down to 50%. So we're going to do that straight away. That will then match up to the one above. And again, on the mountains, facing off to the right where our light source is going to be, we'll just add in our highlights. So I'm going to use this peak here, create a big area up here. I'm then going to go ahead and create another one and just let this one just run all the way down, all the way to the edge of the canvas. And to be honest, I'll probably leave that exactly how it is. That looks fine to me. I'll move across to the other opposite side and pretty much repeat sort of the same steps. So just create a big highlight off of that little peak there. And then maybe we'll get a little bit fancy with this one. We'll create some nice ridge lines in there, but just let that link up at the top. And truthfully, we can leave that exactly how it is. So nice and simple, really. Just anything that faces off to the right is where we add a light source. Let's go ahead and create another new layer. Let's go ahead and change its properties to match. So we'll tap on the layer, drop its opacity down to 70%. We'll go back to our color and we'll change it to the first color in the palette. And then we'll add in some shadows. So again, I'm going to go ahead and sort of work on the sort of back edge of this mountain, adding in a big shadow there. And then maybe create some more fancier shadows that connect into it, but something maybe a little bit like this. And maybe just one more shadow from the bottom here. Just something nice and light there. Then we'll move over to the opposite mountain and add in some more shadows. So again, behind your peaks, maybe just add in a little bit of a shadow there. I'm definitely going to add in a big shadow off the top area here. And then maybe even just another one that just runs down here and maybe even connects into this one. So have some fun sort of connecting your shadows maybe, or just adding in the odd little shadow here and there. That's just going to give a little bit more dimension to your mountains. So you've got something like this. Now what we'll go ahead and do is we'll add in a little bit of a glow here at the bottom. So we'll just go ahead and create a new layer above the front mountain here. So we've got the mountain here and the two layers clipped. Create a new layer and tap on that layer and unclip the layer. We're then going to go ahead and go to our brush. We're going to go to airbrushing. So that will be under the option of sprayers. And we're going to go to the soft airbrush. We're going to go to our colors. And we're going to go ahead and grab this orange color here. So it's the second color from the right. The brush size is currently set to a fairly large 600. And what we'll do is just towards the bottom here, I'm going to fade from left to right really lightly and just add in a little bit of a glow there that will just separate our trees from our mountain. So just a little bit of a glow in there, again, just to add some distance. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of repeat that, but in front of those mountains on the back even more so, and introduce another color. So we'll go ahead and we've got the two mountains here, two layers clipped to it, and then tap on the top one and create a new layer. And tap on that layer and turn off the clip because we don't need it clipped. Then go to your colors. I'm going to grab the lighter tone here, so the third color from the right. And again, just add in a little bit more of a glow just in front of our mountains. This will help our front mountain also sort of stand off from the background, adding in a lot more depth. Now what we'll do is we'll just add in some sky features. So we'll go down to our gradient at the back and create a new layer. We're going to go ahead and go to our tools again, and we're going to go to fills, but we're going to change it to solid fill this time. Then when we go to our create options and we go to the shapes and the circle, if we drag outwards, we'll fill in that moon straight away. And then we can let go at roughly this sort of size. And then we can go ahead and tap on our circle tool when we're done. We'll go to our eraser, tap on the eraser, and we're going to go ahead and use the soft airbrush under sprayers. The brush size, we can make a lot smaller than that. That just needs to be around about sort of the 200 mark. And we're just going to kind of create a crescent. So we're just going to erase the top left edge. You may have to sort of increase your pressure a few times in that top left corner until you create a little bit something like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase that until you've almost got the outline of a full moon. That's fine, but something like this will do the trick. And then you've got your light source in the sky. Now what we can actually do is go to the layer, tap on it and duplicate it. The bottom one out of the two, go to your create options and go to edit. We'll go to filters and we'll go to blur. Once you tap on blur, we can swipe from left to right and we'll give our moon a bit of a glow there in the sky. So I'm going to go up to about 82% and hit the tick when I'm done. And then the final step is to add in some stars. So we're going to go ahead and create one more layer again. Just drag it down so it's just in front of your background there. We're then going to go ahead and go to our brush and change our brush. We can go to the option of glow. And we're going to go ahead and use the neon pen here at the top, so second from top. The brush size is currently set to 45. We can maybe make that a little bit bigger, maybe up to 55. And we're just going to tap a few times to create some stars. And then the longer you press and the more sort of circular motion you make, you'll be able to create bigger stars and smaller stars with less pressure. So just vary up your sky and give it a good nice coat of stars. Now it's always good to maybe start with just a few different smaller stars to start with, just to make sure you sort of get the idea for filling out your whole scene. Also, do not go inside this area here of the moon. We don't want to have any stars on top of the moon because that wouldn't make any sense. So. And then occasionally, once you've got sort of a more full area, you can go ahead and add in some bigger stars that will just fill out your sky a little bit more. And you can work out where to maybe balance the piece a little bit in terms of, have you added too many in this area, so therefore maybe just keep them nice and small, or you can go ahead and use a big star just to really balance out the rest of your design. So we'll just add in some stars. This is a fun bit, just tapping away, trying to create little dots here and there and really give your design some nice fun looking night scene. So you can make some really big ones if you want to, like be brave, but nice little clusters here and there always look really good. So have a couple next to each other. You don't want like a grid system almost where things are just too sort of structured. You want to have a nice varying amount of randomness to it. So I'm just taking a look at everything I've got left in the sky, and I can maybe add in a couple more over on this side, but overall that looks pretty good to me. And then the only thing I'm then going to do is go to my eraser, tap on the eraser and go to sprayers and the soft brush. And what would typically happen with this night sky is those ones at the top would be the brightest because they're in the darker sort of space, whereas down here where you've got our sort of sunset happening, we want them to be a little bit more faint. So I'm going to just make my eraser with the soft airbrush around about sort of that 400 mark, and just give them a nice light coat at the bottom to blend them out so that they're a little bit more faint and the ones at the top in the night sky are the only ones really showing. And if I pinch with 2 fingers, go full screen with 4, we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you did and you want to share your designs, you can share them with me over on Instagram. You can actually share them with me on Facebook, and there's also a Infinite Painters group that I made on Facebook, so you can come and join the community over there. But there's links to all of my socials in the description down below. And if you liked this video, you'll probably like this one on the screen now as well. And if you're interested in any of today's equipment, I'm currently using the Sketchboard Pro that you can always use code JOELCREATE, which is my main channel, for a discount. The pen mat screen cover, again, discount code in the description, and the pen tips glove. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.